The hosts and guests on Everything's Messy podcast are not licensed healthcare professionals. The discussions in our episodes are not personalized medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for medical guidance. Never delay seeking professional medical advice or emergency assistance because of our podcast. We encourage consulting with a healthcare professional before making any significant health changes. By listening to our podcast, you agree to the disclaimer. Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Hey, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast, where we celebrate the beautiful but messy life experiences that most, if not all, people go through. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey through the raw and unfiltered stories of everyday people. Here, we dive into messy realities of life, from making messy mistakes to triumphs and everything in between. Are you sensing a theme? That's right, it's messy. But this just isn't about the mess. It's about finding strength and resilience in the midst of it all. We'll explore how health, fitness, and wellness play a crucial role in navigating life's twists and very messy turns. And we'll challenge conventional systems, because sometimes the most unconventional paths lead to the greatest discoveries. Join us as we embrace the messy, beautiful, and endlessly fascinating stories. Each episode is a testament to the power of our messy journeys and the beauty that emerges from the mess. So grab your favorite beverage, coffee, sparkling water, whatever it may be, and prepare to be inspired. Are you ready? Let's get messy. What's happening, my messy warriors? Welcome back to another episode of Everything's Messy podcast. I am your messy host, Sarah. Okay, so I'm going to do a little housekeeping right now. I want to do a big shout out to New Zealand and Australia. I was able to look at my overall stats for last year, and it seems like, which I'm totally enjoying this, the theme for the last 2 years have been my biggest fans are in Australia and New Zealand. So I'm very excited to have you guys along for this messy ride. Big shout out to you guys. If anybody's out there and you have a messy story and you want to share it here, specifically in Australia, New Zealand, I don't know the region all that well, but I'd love to have you on the show, not only to show that part of the world some love, because you guys are showing me the love, but to keep at it down under. So again, appreciate everyone there listening, and all over wherever you're listening. I so appreciate it. I really enjoyed looking back at my stats for the year. That's always fun to look at. And like I said, as it seems to be the theme, that is where a big majority of my listeners are. So very excited for that. And it's kind of cool to know that this little tiny podcast that started, 2 years ago has sort of grown, and I love it. I love that I can be talking to people all around the world. We all have this common goal that we want to find wellness, and we might have been through things that have put us on this journey, or know a relative or a friend or something that made us come to this direction. But regardless of what it's for, you're here. I'm here for it, and I love it. So I kind of want to pivot and shift, my favorite word. I want to shift into some not controversial things, but there has been a lot said, specifically last year with, Tylenol and autism and all of these other things. And I don't really want to get into the crux of that, although you can imagine I do have my messy opinion on it, especially having one on the spectrum. But I think it's more important to understand what they're trying to say instead of getting angry about it. We, as a society, there's a lot of us that shift to anger very quickly on things that are said, and to me, there doesn't seem to be enough time to take for understanding of it. So that's what I'm here for. I hope that nobody that's listening is angry, but maybe you heard something, a snippet on the news, and it made you angry, and I'd like to help break it down. Doesn't mean you still might not be angry, but I just kind of I'm always bringing that information. I'm always bringing what my side of it is. I'm constantly trying to shine the light on autoimmune and chronic conditions. And I think this plays into it with what they're specifically talking about. So let's talk about, now I talked a little bit about this when we did the episode on peptides. This isn't that. If you want that information, go back and listen to the peptide issue. This is more of what it is and what it isn't, specifically speaking about glutathione and what it's doing in our body, why it's necessary. So let's get into that. All right. So have all my notes. I've completely shifted, right? I used to do everything just off the top of my head, maybe a few bullet points. Now I'm writing these big, notes. I'm researching more clinically because I want to be bringing you the best information that I can. And it's also probably has to do, side note, I was accepted into the Functional Medicine Practitioner Fellowship, where no, I won't be a doctor. I won't be able to diagnose or prescribe, but I will be able to interpret labs, read labs, work with you on your lab work, and I'll be able to tell you if you need more lab tests, what we might need to be checking for, and a slew of other things. I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm really enjoying, as I always say, I'm a data nerd. I'm really enjoying the research. I get to review patient files and, kind of reverse engineer what conventional medicine has said. So I'm really trying to get into whatever I can help people that are having these autoimmune chronic conditions that we really, really haven't seen at this height before. I'm getting into it. I'm getting messy with it. So put that in the back of your head. And okay, let's get back to glutathione. So glutathione is not a vitamin. It is an antioxidant. Okay, big difference. There's a lot of things on the internet and TikTok and, all the platforms that are telling you that you can take glutathione orally, and you can, but a lot of times it doesn't process well. It gets eaten up in the small intestine or the stomach. It does, you digest it quicker than you can absorb what it's going to be good for. Now, there are some different ways that you can take it. The lipsol, absorption might be better, and that kind of, or lips, I'm sorry, might be better for you, and or you can do it in an IV. Now, I'm not sure what parts you're in. I know out here in Southern California, there is a big uptick in these mobile IV clinics that can go around and give you, vitamin B12 and the glutathione and what's called, oh gosh, I just forgot the name. It's a cocktail Myers cocktail. There we go. Myers cocktail that is suggested to use, after you've had a night of, drinking or whatever. That's supposed to be really good for you. My problem with, now again, I like to get messy. My problem with these IV clinics, and this is where you have to weigh for yourself what is the best, what is not. Because of those microplastics that we're trying to stay away from, because they put all of the solution goes into a plastic IV bag, there could be traces of that plastic IV bag going into your system. Again, at what amounts, even trace amounts, I don't know the particulars. I just know you have to look at the casing and where it's coming from. And that's just something to consider when you're doing it. If you're going to outweigh, pros and cons, and it's better because you need all of these antioxidants and vitamins, by all means. I don't know where I stand yet. I'd like to see a little more research on what's, is it a BPA-free plastic bag? Is it like all of these other things? I'm just wanting to see a little bit more of information, but I do think they're on the right track. These kinds of things should not be gatekept. We should have access to these things as humans, no matter where we're at in the country, in the world. We should have access to these things. They should not be only conventional medicine only. These are not drugs. These are antioxidants and vitamins that our bodies, some more than others, again, if you're suffering from chronic conditions or autoimmune, we are needing these. Now, specifically, I don't know what, because I don't know your story individually, but on a level, if you have one of those autoimmune or chronic conditions, you probably need to start looking at vitamin B12 or vitamin Bs, selenium, glutathione, vitamin D, those kinds of things. So, all right. So again, glutathione is what they call a tripeptide. So 3 things go into it, 3 amino acids. It's cysteine, glycine, and glutamate. Okay. Cysteine, glycine, glutamate. And your body does produce this inside its cells. And it's considered the most important intracellular antioxidant we have. So we need to not only be making it and produce, helping our body to make it, but we need to try and not take things that might reduce those levels in us, right? Okay. So, why is it such a big deal? Why is glutathione the big buzzword now going around? So, let's do this. It helps with neutralizing free radicals, which is oxidative stress, which I also did a podcast on that. So, go back and look at that. It supports liver detox pathways. Now, I've talked about this. The liver cannot detox, right? What do I tell you? The liver holds the blood, right? It pulses through. When we're talking about the season of the liver, that is spring, but it doesn't detox. It empties into the small intestine. Now, there are different pathways that do detox, which I think that's what they're alluding to when I took these notes. But we need to be very careful with the verbiage liver detox pathways. Okay. It also does immune system regulation, of course, mitochondrial health. What is mitochondrial? We've talked about it before. ATP is our energy. It's held in the mitochondria. That is our energy. So we need to be making sure that we are not only making the energy, but utilizing the energy properly. And then it's also recycling other antioxidants like vitamin C and vitamin E. So it's a cell protection, immune balance, and energy support antioxidant. Those are pretty big things. We need that, right? It's the cleanup crew. So why is the controversy? They're saying that Tylenol can, I don't want to say cause it, but maybe spur on autism, right? What they're saying is, and this is very important, again, I'm not trying to be controversial. I want to make sure that the information is understood. If you have preemptively given a acetaminophen before immunizations, the effect of Tylenol, because it does lower your glutathione levels, what could happen is if you are, now again, you're already predisposed, there's something that you have, okay? But if if you're lowering your glutathione levels on purpose, and then you enter something into the body that is foreign, the cleanup crew, as we call what glutathione is not firing at 100% to get rid of, to clean up in the body what it needs to. Okay, so let's think about that again. If you've preemptively given something like Tylenol before any sort of immunization in a I don't even know what the time period would be. I would assume, again, don't assume, but I'm thinking, fact check me here, probably 24 hours or earlier prior to something like that, you're having these foreign things enter your body, and the cleanup crew is not at 100% to get out what it needs to get out to be able to go forward and function. That means it starts to build up. That means it's staying in your body, and those toxins can then trigger, if again, it's preloaded, right? You have to have a few things in place. That's what they're trying to say. They didn't do a very good job in explaining it. So I'm trying to do a better job without being too controversial. But you need to understand that we need the most optimal levels of glutathione for any foreign thing to go into our body. For anything that we need our cleanup crew to go in and flush out, we need to be firing 100% or more with that glutathione. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So we have our chronic conditions, and here's the thing. I don't want to give a bad rep to these pain reducers, because there is a lot of times, especially if you are suffering from an autoimmune or chronic condition where you're dealing with pain, there's not a lot of options. I'm not discouraging you from taking it. I want you to understand what you're taking and what it's doing. Okay. So we, um, it let's say the word gently. It gently connects to autoimmune disease, metabolic issues, chronic inflammation, and neurodivergent bodies that are already lined up with those things, okay? And we know this, a lot of chronic conditions are associated with higher oxidative stress and more demand on the oxidative systems. So if you already have these triggers lined up and you take something that depletes your glutathione, which is your cleanup crew, you're kind of the perfect storm. It's just happening inside, right? So the question becomes, how do we support our bodies that are working harder? Because they are, again, I've said this many, many times on the podcast, our bodies are working so hard to put us in homeostasis. That's where the issues come in because they're overworking, they're overtired on these triggers that we put into our body, and they're still trying to do their job. And that's what's kind of misfiring and setting up for those chronic conditions. So that is really, really something I want you guys to understand. So let's see if we can uh, well, let's first talk about, I said I kind of touched on why taking glutathione orally doesn't always work. And again, it gets broken down in the digestion, but there are a few ways, again, IV form and liposomal ways that you can take. I think again, I'm not putting my name on it, but I have seen advertisements for RHO, and they do advertise the formula that is highly digestible, it works really well and doesn't get lost in your digestive system. So how can we have some building blocks, right? We need to have some supporting building blocks. So protein intake, right? Especially cysteine-rich foods, okay? We can also take a direct precursor that helps our body make the glutathione is the NAC. I've talked about NAC before. This was really big during COVID because there was a lot of people trying to amp up their immune systems. I saw a lot of it on TikTok and Instagram. NAC, you need to monitor how much you're taking. Again, I do not prescribe or diagnose or tell you what to take. This is something you need to talk over with your doctor. But NAC is the precursor. It helps you with that building block to make more glutathione, right? And then, of course, vitamin C. What do we always hear to make our immune systems stronger is vitamin C, selenium, and your B vitamins. And I would also add in vitamin D, and I would be very clear to say you need to know how your body is synthesizing the vitamin D. There is so much evidence out there of people who are pre-cancer or become cancerous and their vitamin D levels are in the tanks. I don't think it's been studied enough of exactly how important vitamin D is and what it's exactly doing. And again, a lot of people come to me and their vitamin D levels look normal. For those of you not watching on YouTube, I'm using finger quotes. It looks normal. And what they're measuring in conventional lab work for vitamin D is the non-synthesized vitamin D. So there's two kinds. It's the vitamin D that sits in your stomach or your system, and then the vitamin D that's actually synthesizing and transitioning into a working vitamin D, let's call it. So again, there's normal results and there's optimal results. And I encourage you to know, or I encourage you to, along with, if you are taking vitamin D extra, I encourage that you're also sitting in the sun and making sure we're getting that vitamin D transitioned into usable vitamin D. So that's a little rant to the side. So it's unfortunate that you seem to have to be your own medical doctor in order to know all this stuff. Of course, that's what I'm here for. I'm trying to break all of this stuff down for you. But you still have to take some responsibility in what your care is going to be and what you even need to know. It's really important. I think I had her on the show. She talked about, knowing what your vitamin D transition levels are. And so go back and listen to her. Very, very interesting there. She's also the one that talks about mold. I think I did a 2-parter with her. So please, please, please go back and listen to that if you need to. So, okay. We've talked about what is it, why it matters. Now, why do we, as our modern day life, we seem to burn through it so much, right? So we've got stress. I've talked about stress. We know what that does. Sugar. there's so much evidence of how terrible sugar is for us on so many levels. Lack of sleep, of course, you have chronic illness, you have a busy life, just all of it into the soup pot, right? So we need to make sure we are eating the best nutrient dense food that we could possibly eat. That's one of the, I don't want to say easiest because it does take planning, it does take budget, but you can if you want cheap ways to eat carnivore or more whole food based. Dr. Paul Saladino, he does a lot of YouTube and even YouTube shorts, and he goes into places like Walmart and other things. If you are shopping on a budget and you really need to, I mean, which one of us don't need to pinch pennies? He will actually show you what products are what he considers, nutrient dense inside Walmart. It doesn't cost you very much, and he will show you which. So go to Dr. Paul Saladino on YouTube and you will see those things. Okay, so it's trying to go through my notes here. So, let's see. So, what is it about the science to real life that we can apply for ourselves? Again, we know we need to keep our stress under control. How do we do that? We do the very basic. We learn how to breathe. We move our body if we can. We try to manage our time better. A lot of times we just can't, which means you're going to go back to breathing better and moving as much as you can in any kind of form. Move, right? It because it's attacking our hormones, our blood sugar, our stress, our lack of sleep, all of these things, we need to sort of empower ourselves from that, right? What are we going to do? We're burning through it faster, especially again, those of us with an autoimmune or chronic disease. And even those of you who don't have something like that, if you are stressed, if you are running around just crazy, if you are not eating nutrient dense foods, you are still hurting your body. It's still going to affect you. Okay. Maybe not on the level of autoimmune or chronic conditions, but it's going to affect you. So we need to make sure we are giving our body the power that needs. Again, protein, sleep, stress regulation, and maybe trying to shift it and find more time to relax and things like that. So again, for the supplements, right, a better way or a smarter way to support it. We don't have to jump right into the IV treatment of glutathione, although if you feel you need to, that's okay. Again, I would also look into the brand RHO. We need to have it though, and start taking the precursors NAC. Again, just talk with your doctor about it, but those are really good supplements to have, especially again if you're low. The protein, the vitamin C, and it's doesn't have to be lifelong. There's a lot of supplements, Chinese herbs, things like that, where we just need it for our recovery. And once we're back to maintenance level, you don't need to take these things anymore. So remember, that's why it's very important that you're working with a functional medicine doctor or even a regular doctor, because they can tell you, okay, let's try it for 3 months, 6 months, or you're advocating for yourself. Hey, I want to have an end date on this. What does that look like? Talk about it, get that information, because again, every case is different and I'm not reviewing all of your cases, so I can't say for certain, right? So this is the part. If you have a child or yourself who you already know is sensitive to maybe being on the spectrum or some type of neurodivergency, maybe they have other, chronic conditions, autoimmune, or you do, we need to support it so it fits into a bigger picture, especially when we're talking about the nervous system and our immune health. So make sure, and it's hard to know these things until it goes chaos. I get it. But it's really, really important to find a functional doctor, even a health coach that can encourage you to go in the way of, a functional medicine doctor, or even if you're going to talk to your conventional doctor. Again, I know I kind of, grade on them all the time. I think there are good conventional doctors out there, but it's going to take you to advocate for yourself, to make sure that you're asking about these things, to be a little more informed than just, okay, doc, give me the pill and I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. We need to get better at that because that's the only way things are going to change. I hate to have this full, complete, and utter trust into conventional medicine when it's not in your best interest, not in maintenance of medicine. Again, acute emergency medicine, we are by far the greatest at, but maintenance of medicine, we have to take a more creative approach. And again, that's what I'm here for. So, understanding glutathione a little better, knowing what it does inside the body, why it's important, why there are these sound bites on social media and on the news of people talking about it absolutely does not prevent it. It absolutely does not, um, cause it. Those speaking in terms of absolutes, again, we need to look at the levels. We need to see what was, ingested beforehand. And I think I've talked about this before. Jenny McCarthy, she's been very vocal. For those of you who don't know, she's a pretty big celebrity, and she's been around for a really long time. And she was very vocal when her son was diagnosed with autism. And she was one of the first people that I was able to really relate to because she put it on such a real world level. And she does say that before, she took her son to the doctor and he had to have his annuals and things like that. She did not give Tylenol or any sort of ibuprofen or something. She didn't give anything preemptively. So that's really important when we are speaking about this because both sides need to be heard. Both sides need to know. And I don't like the assumption I do not like when people say, oh, we all have a little bit of the autism in us. No, we don't. And for those of us that are parents of neurodivergence or we've, been around it, that's insulting in a way because it makes us that do know about it, that you don't quite understand what it is. And again, it's a spectrum for a reason. You have people who are very, very high functioning, are able to live, again, what is a normal life, but a quasi-normal life without assistance. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where it is not that. It's very sad. You have parents who are caretakers, who are doing their very best to accommodate and try and get them to a steady place. And so sometimes the why doesn't matter. But for me as an individual, I want to know as much information as I can. So going forward, I either know what to look into further. I either know what to talk about further. I've said a lot. When I completely removed red dye number 40 from my children's diet, it was night and day difference. We had the ADHD specialist on our podcast last year. She talked about how she, again, air quotes, but practically cured her son's ADHD just by taking away red dye, gluten, dairy, all of these things. So again, to me, that shows me the lesson has to be, we've got to strip everything down all the way back to basics, including our food, which needs to be nutrient dense, regardless of what you're dealing with, regardless of you're dealing with autoimmune, chronic, diseases, health or food sensitivities, whatever is happening, strip it down. That's right. Strip it all down, get messy, start, do the food elimination diet. Yes, this all takes patience. It all takes hard work. Trust me, I've been there. I know. But at the end of the day, you're going to have more data to make better informed decisions along with these, episodes that I'm doing to inform us about the antioxidants, why it's important, what it does in our body. We want that cleanup crew strong. That cleanup crew inside our body needs to be strong, regardless if we're talking about the proverbial liver detox or just the pathways to detox in general, what is our biggest pathway to detox? Our skin, which is why a lot of times we will present with rashes or other things because our liver and our body is trying to tell us something, mostly that it's not happy. We need to make a change. So that is it for this episode of Everything's Messy podcast. I am so glad to be here again, another year doing this with you all. And I just hope you keep coming back. I hope my Australian and New Zealand people keep coming back, as well as the rest of you everywhere. Much love to everybody. And we are winning in the new year. We are going to be talking about so much. And again, if you're looking for a liver supplement, I do have an affiliate link for Primal Queen up on my Linktree and Instagram. And again, if you have a messy story, I'd love to hear it. Shoot me an email. Let me know. It can't ever be too messy. However, I like to stick with the wellness topics, but I don't know. If you're not sure, let's have an email exchange and we can always figure it out from there. So that is it for today. And as always, keep it messy. Thanks for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Whew, if you made it this far, give yourself a gold star or at least a nap. Honestly, if you showed up today and you were listening, you've already crushed it. I'm so grateful for you listening. If anything hit home, share it, tag me, write it on a sticky note. I don't care. Just don't keep all of this messy goodness to yourself. You can find me on Instagram at Everything's Messy Wellness or over at my website, everythingsmessywellness.com, where I've got resources, coaching, and probably a new rant about blood sugar or something that's just nonsense. It's all waiting for you. Check out my YouTube channel. I've got all of my podcast episodes up there. And I'm on X at Everything's Mess. Or if you just want to send me an email, Sarah at everythingsmessywellness.com. Look, until next time, hydrate, take no crap, and as always, keep it messy.